I don't know. I was expecting this journey to be fun and exciting, going to a bunch of different churches, talking with people, reading Torah, the Quran, the Talmud, the Tanakh, the Bible, you know, yeah, like the apocryphal gospels and all of that. I I was not expecting it to be so emotional. I wasn't I wasn't expecting myself to have such a visceral reaction. As I was leaving the Orthodox Church today on the drive back, I felt just in my brain joy. Just like, especially in the back, just this sort of creeping effect of just calmness, enjoyment from the experience. And I don't know. It's I've gone to Mormon churches and they're just overly kind and overly shaking your hands, and I don't really like that. It feels very coldy, it feels very invasive, but there is a genuineness to it. There are a couple people who were kind, and I could tell they're just being kind because they were told to be kind. There was one, gosh, what was she? Had to be, she said she was 70-ish, but she didn't look a day over 60, and she just had so much energy and so much joy and so much youthful vigor and just so much kindness. And she just, you know, she's just like, "You're gonna be back." I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna be back. She's like, "No, you're coming back. I'm gonna make sure you come back." Just yeah. I'm starting to get it. I understand why people will go to a church. I'm starting to understand it. It was just today I heard a lot of powerful stories. I was speaking with someone. I'm not going to say her names or any descriptive characteristics other than what is absolutely necessary for context. But, I don't know her story. We talked a little bit. I said my story. She said hers. And on her hands, there were tattoos. On her arms, there were tattoos. I'm assuming on other places, there were tattoos. And she talked about her struggles and rehab. And I know that journey. I know that journey of slowly putting together your memory and your life and coming to terms with who you used to be, and it was nice. I don't know, I was not expecting this. I was expecting it to be long and boring and funny, and I don't know. I understand why people convert to Orthodoxy. Today was actually a baptism. Usually baptisms are done on Saturdays, but today I've been informed, and I'll have to double check this, that so many people were being baptized that they decided to move it to Sunday and have the families come in. And I had a wonderful time seeing all of these different families. I couldn't see anything about the baptism because all the parents are with their little computers going computer, computer, computer. Little Johnny, little Johnny, hey, oh, like that our computers, and I couldn't even stay the whole service. I went to the bathroom, and just started scrolling, reading Unordinary season two. Unordinary season two's out. Highly, highly recommend it. Mwah, 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 mwah. I will have sex with your mother, and she lives it. Your dad, He's getting used to it, but he's starting to come to the gay side, where I am. It's a little threesome with your parents. That's why the door is locked, kids, because I'm in there. No, 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 no. I'm in there. You know what I mean? I'm not in there. I'm in there. Down in. Anyways, I lost my train of thought. It'll come. It always comes. I always come. It's just, I get it. I, yeah, I was talking about the baptisms. After the baptisms, there was a small little feast. I don't think I was supposed to be there, but I was in the bathroom. I came out. I saw a bunch of people everywhere, and they kind of dragged me in, and I sat down and I had some food with a lot of different people, and it was nice. I asked someone a question like, hey, who are you? Where are you from? The pleasantries and all of that. And they're like, I'm here, but then I'm not going to be here. Then I'm going to be back. I'm like, yeah, I get that sometimes. Like, no, 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 because of this. And I'm like, what's this? Because, like, I'm Orthodox. I'm an Orthodox mom. And she's like pointing at her belly. And I'm like, 40 days, And I'm like, and she's like, just ask the father. And I don't want to talk to the priest. I'm like, I'm just some weirdo who's here because I'm curious. So she's like, yeah, ding, and I go to the father, and the father's like, sit down. Me being an idiot, I'm like I'm a kid about to hear a bedtime story. Like I'm just like, tell me a story, daddy. Tell me a story, daddy. Tell me a story, daddy. You know, the priest. I'm talking with the priest, and everyone keeps, every time I go to, I've only been here twice, and both times everyone's like, talk with the father. The father, daddy knows, okay? Everyone's like, daddy knows, daddy knows. Oh, oh, oh. So I talk with the daddy. So Big Daddy with his beard, he's like, no, in the Old Testament, then he starts telling the story about how the mothers would bring their child to the altar to get it. I'm stupid. Reviewed by God. Then if it was a boy, they would spend 40 days getting purified. If it was a girl, was it 80? I'll have to look into that. So he walks through the story, and he sums it up with, and also, childbirth is pretty intense. We want to give the mother 40 days to recover and spend time with her child. That is a very important part in their life, the mother and the child. And I'm like, okay, I get that. Gosh, I don't know. I don't know enough about this man to be like, oh, he's wise, or oh, he's an idiot. But it's really interesting just the amount of respect that everyone holds for this man. Like they're just they treat him with so much respect. When I walked over, well, I was dragged over, I sat down, I was like, tell me a story, daddy, tell me a story, daddy, tell me a story, daddy, tell me. I want to hear a story, daddy, tell me a story, daddy, 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 daddy. And it's the fact that he just immediately, for someone he's never met, actually I met him once before, first time I had like a 2-minute conversation with him. So this is my second time meeting him. The fact that, I mean, he's eating. He's probably hungry since we've been all here for so goddamn long. Everybody's fucking hungry. And the fact that he just calmly, hey neighbor, great people. The fact that he just put down his plate is like, all right, and just calmly trying to explain something to me. He didn't, he explained things to me in such a way that it didn't feel like he was talking to me as a child. And he also explained it in such a way that someone who had no experience with and had no knowledge could understand. And I was very appreciative of that. And I don't know, man. I get it why people become ortho bros now. There's a community. There is, regardless of whether it's true or not. I don't believe in any of this stuff. But there's something very nice about going to a church and people asking, like, how have you been? Where have you been? And they genuinely care. Like there is a community element to it. When I came out of the bathroom, you're hiding from the long, long mass. I mean, god damn. Like, long mass. I was just talking. It was nice. There were two women who were speaking. They were both older, and they were of different walks of life. They were different races, different cultures, different histories, different, different, different people that in many societies and many places they would have been told to hate each other. And the fact that they could just sit down with each other, talk about their grandchildren, their past, and I tried to join the conversation, and I didn't want to come off as awkward, but I wanted to learn more about these two people because they just had such kindness. And they were speaking with me, and they treated me with such respect and human decency. And for them, it didn't feel forced. There were some people I was talking to, and it felt like they were, putting on their suit and tie and, you know, being someone they're not because, it's Sunday and wait, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's gonna look good for God. Like God, God, and it's like, oh my God, the crossing, my friends. They're just Orthodox is just boom, 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 boom. Like, I mean, just like I feel like I'm part of a gang. It's just like, just boom, 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 boom. It's like each knee, son, she, each knee, son, she. I can count, all right. I can count. I did not forget. I did not forget how to count. I know numbers. I know numbers. It's just like, oh my God. I swear you could walk into an Orthodox mass just going the whole time, and people would think you're a prophet. They'd just be like, why is he seen? Oh, oh God. Oh, shut up. Oh, shut up, shut up. Oh my God. Just a lot of love. People talk about love a lot in Christianity. And these people loved each other. Like, someone recently died in the congregation. There was mourning. People missed them. People were moved. People were upset. People cared deeply about them. I mean, I'm still working on my review. I'm still going to do a tier list of all the different churches. Catholics, you're getting it hard, man. You ain't going nowhere with your shit. But I don't know. I I walk in with this little misspelled book right here, and I've just started taking notes. First maths. I accidentally did. Apparently, with Orthodox, they have multiple masses you can go to in the same day, and they just kind of stack on each other. I accidentally was there from the first time I went to an Orthodox mass. It was from 8:15. I stayed all the way to 11:35. 8:15 a.m. to 11:35. That's the length of the service. Then afterwards, you talk with people. So I was coming back around 1. um, it was also really it was nice because the first service I went to, I sat down and there was the guy. I sat down next to a guy. He's about my age. I'm 20. I think he was 20 as well, or 19 or 21, but college bound kid. Was dressed up, really adamant. You could see that he was passionate. After the services, I talked with him. I said, "Hey, I don't know much about Orthodoxy. This is my first time." And he tried to explain it to me. He explained like why we cross, why there's so much artwork, why there's different services, why we get baptized. And it was interesting because his mother was also there, and he brought his mother there. He invited his mother there, and I can see why. Like I see why a lot of young men, like 17 till 27, like that decade. There's a lot of young men at these churches, and I can see it. I can. I've gone to churches, and by the way, I'm not saying that all Orthodox is great, but I've gone to churches in which I was speaking with people, and I knew the second they got home, it was a different story. I'm probably going to find people like that at this congregation. It's only a matter of time because that's how it always goes. But speaking with a lot of these people, and I am a man, so I know everything I see will be through the lens of a man. There's a lot of lenses that I wear. I don't want to deny that, and there's a lot of things I won't be able to see simply because of who I am and experiences that I've had. But I think I can see a lot of young men there who are really emotionally well developed. They just have kindness, and I don't see them in this competition to try to be hyper masculine. You know, I I don't like a lot of. I've dealt with a lot of boys, not men, who are just trying to be hyper masculine. Like this very, like vibrato, like look at my muscle, my massive man titty abs. As they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Look at this super sexy, muscular. I should cut some of that, or at least put a bar over that, so I don't get it. Oh, I really should be more careful, but I didn't really see that there. I saw a lot of young couples who seemed very excited about that relationship. They were happy to bring life into the world, And, gosh, I don't know. It's a good group of people.